11 minutes into the trading session, modest gains for the market pretty much across the board. Dow's up 70, Nasdaq's up close to 100 points. Now, according to a new poll, Trump's approval rating moved up 2 points to 44%. And recession fears, they're cooling. 69% still worry about a recession, but that's down from 76% in April. Economist EJ Antoni joining me now. In your opinion, what is the chance of a recession?
Well, Stu, let's distinguish between a recession on paper and a recession in reality. And the reason I have to say that is because what we had under Biden was not technically a recession on paper. But if you ask the American people, do you think we're actually in a recession right now? Not do you think it's going to happen, but do you think we're in one right now? We routinely got responses over 50% saying yes, and that's because their own personal financial situation had gotten worse. It had receded, hence they felt like it was a recession. So I would not be surprised if we still do get that technical recession of 2 negative quarters of GDP growth, especially because of how that's calculated with the timing of imports and tariffs. However, if you look at how the American people are actually doing financially, specifically a measure like what can the average American buy with his or her weekly paycheck, that's going up, not down. So by that measure, things are getting better. The economy's growing.
EJ, I want you to listen to what my friend and colleague Kevin O'Leary had to say about the Republican tax bill yesterday. He said it on this program. Roll tape.
We gave money to small businesses to keep people employed during COVID. That program's over. They want to give new powers to the IRS to audit all those small businesses for up to 9 years. That's unprecedented. Why would we want to do that to small business? They don't even have to keep their records that long. So many of these audits would occur after the period where they don't have their records. This is war on small business.
Well, you heard it right there from Kevin O'Leary. War on small business. Do you agree with that? Is that the way things are going in a Republican budget?
Well, Stu, it depends on how these audits are going to be conducted. Look, the fact of the matter is not only in 2020, but also into 2021, we were still passing new legislation that handed out more money to small businesses, some of which literally never existed, and some of which weren't even here in America. They were overseas. In other words, the programs were filled with fraud. So the fact that the current Treasury Secretary wants to go back and look at some of those figures, I can understand why that would be the case. The Treasury would like to recoup some of those taxpayer dollars that were handed out fraudulently. Now, that being said, I think there's a right and a wrong way to do it. I think you can do it without being intrusive on legitimate small businesses that got legitimate payments. And frankly, I trust Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, to navigate that, to walk that tightrope.
Okay, this is something I'm really interested in. The bill would include so-called MAGA savings accounts for newborns. Any baby born from 2025 to 2028 would get a one-time payment of $1,000. Do you approve of that, EJ?
Well, Stuart, I'd like to see the details a little bit more. At the end of the day, though, what I really like are ultimately things that encourage work, that encourage savings, as opposed to handouts. In other words, things like getting rid of taxes on overtime, getting rid of taxes on tips. Those are things that encourage people to work more. Well, look, we want to remove taxes from things that we like, and we want to tax things that we don't like. That's a pretty basic principle of economics. So, again, at the end of the day, what we want in this tax bill are pro-growth policies, things that are going to encourage people to save more and encourage people to work more.
Okay, EJ, I thought it was a pretty good idea, actually. $1,000 for every child, baby born. Okay. EJ, thank you very much indeed.